So you started like 6 months ago.
Yeah, so we actually the first idea of Kem came around about a year and a half ago, but we launched the first version of the app 6 months ago. We had to spend quite a bit of time in Kuwait, working with the regulators, the central bank, and dealing with the local banks, just to make sure that we were fully regulated and could actually build this thing because there was a lot of engineering that had to go into this product. So yeah, that's how
Yeah.
we started originally.
Yeah, give us an idea about the business, like in general.
Yeah, so
Podcast.
basically it's, the first peer-to-peer payments app really in the Middle East. It's, the whole idea is just to be able to send money from one person to another, your friend, family, making it as easy as possible, allowing you to do it from, phone number, username. Most people even just know it by a profile picture, right? It's a much easier way to identify a person, and like we noticed that was
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah, before in Kuwait, people were sending links, right?
Yeah.
And you've probably sent links, and
Yeah.
to the people watching right now in the audience, they've probably sent links before, right? They expire. You have to if I want to send money to you, you have to send me a link, and then I have to click on that link, type in my card details, receive an OTP, and then the money's sent. And sometimes the link will expire. Sometimes you'll receive a fraud link, a scam link.
Yeah.
People are asking for your OTPs. It's inconvenient. It doesn't really think about the customer, and it's not as safe. So that's really was the first reason why we started Kem, was because we didn't like sending links, and we were living in the U.S. before, and so in the U.S. we send money from the click of a button. We just quickly go on our Venmo or Cash App, send money within seconds.
Yeah.
So we saw that there was a gap in the market in Kuwait, and we had first started working on the project a year and a half ago. We had raised our first funding round in a few months, and that million that we raised initially from a bunch of different investors gave us the resources to fund this project, to develop it, and that's kind of where we went, and we gathered more investors, and we've just been continuously improving the product. And now, with all the chatter about AI, we're incorporating AI into our application and just a bunch of other things, and continuously thinking about the customer, focusing on the customer experience, because that's all we care about at the end of the day is the people, the customers who want to use our app.
Come back to the progress that you made, but like, how did you came with this idea? Like, so in US, I know that they use, I think it's called Zelle.
Zelle, yeah.
Yeah, from the bank account directly. I think there was like Cash App.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cash App.
So tell us more about.
Yeah. So that's kind of the main difference, right? Is there's Zelle, which is a bank account to bank account
Yeah.
payment system where there's no really intermediary. The money is moving from your account to another person's account. Zelle was created because of the competition that was generated by Cash App and Venmo, which were wallets, basically like us, where the user experience is maximized, and it's even easier, I would say, than Zelle to send money. The only advantage that Zelle has is that it's made by a conglomerate of different banks, so they're able to put the money directly into your account without even having to ask you, and it's not built on necessarily the traditional infrastructure that they use for Cash App and for Venmo, which would be ACH, is what it's called.
Yeah, we saw how easy it was to send money in US, and then one of our partners was living in China. They're sending money with QR codes, and they have a whole system out there that's really incredibly robust. So we came to Kuwait, and that first period was learning about your market, right? You had to understand what is the existing tech that's there, how do we leverage what's already out there, and build something better, right? Build something better than what's currently out there. So we'd come back after this was kind of, I think, post-COVID, during around COVID time, and we had just really wanted to study the market and understand what was going on. And we had probably had over 100 meetings, probably more than that actually. If I'm thinking about it now,
In Kuwait?
We probably had over, I think, 500 meetings.
With who?
So we probably had VCs. We probably had over 100 VC meetings, and with banks, we probably had over like 500 meetings with banks. Every single
they
bank.
were like Kuwaitis or outside of Kuwait or.
Well, we've met with all the banks in Kuwait, right?
Yeah.
From NBK to Wadaba to KIB to Bubiyan.
Yeah.
We've met everyone, and we've had meetings from up and down the chain of command, from chairmans of the banks to the IT people.
Yeah.
And we spent almost a year kind of working on that, where we had just met with people, and because we needed to integrate with the banks, right? So in order to build this, there was we can't just make it out of thin air. We had to connect with the banks so that people can connect their bank accounts to our apps. So we had met with so many people from all the different banks. We also met with banks in the UAE as well. We have accounts there. So yeah, we have we've also made a lot of friends through that as well. We have friends in the local banks.
I'm interested in your relationship with the banks. So did they like welcome the partnership? Did they think of like a threat of entrance?
Look, they always have this one attitude about most things, which is that they want complete exclusivity for your product.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's not the spirit of fintech. The whole point of it is that you're connecting different financial institutions. You're making it easier for everyone. You have to work with everyone. You can't just like say, okay, I'm just going to work with this bank and then I'll make the experience for this bank the easiest, and then you ostracize all the customers from every other bank. That, in our opinion, was not the winning strategy. And so, we definitely butted heads on that one a little bit, but, at the end they were okay with it.
But there's some really smart people working in the banks in Kuwait that started to realize that, you have to work with the fintechs to meet your customers, right? So in the beginning, when fintech was only starting to come around in Kuwait, and the wave hadn't really started yet, some of the banks were a little bit concerned. Oh, is this a threat? They wanted the exclusivity, and just offering that product to their customers. But now, I won't mention names, but there's some really bright people, in some of the banks in Kuwait, the really technology forward banks that want to support fintechs like ourselves. We already have very good relationships with them, actually, signed agreements with some of them. I won't disclose any of that information yet, but to be rolling out solutions with the banks so that once we're fully embedded with the banks, the solution that you're going to expect from Kem in the coming months is going to be incredible. And it's going to even offer a solution that might even be better than what we have in the United States for the Kuwaiti banking system. We're not only trying to just offer something that's the same as what they have in the US and Europe, we're trying to offer a better experience that meets the Kuwaiti people's needs, that meets the people of the Gulf's needs. And that's kind of our motto at Kem is really just supporting everyone and, making them comfortable.
So I worked in one fintech in Kuwait, and I can list the companies like Tab Payment, My Fatura, You Payment, and there's like many other companies working in the same area. But you guys like went to individual. So why did you choose like go or target the individuals rather than working like B2B with like accepting payment for companies?
Business solutions coming soon. Business solutions coming soon. We started with the people, right? The individual customer, because that's where we saw the main problem. Like all these home businesses in Kuwait, shout out stories with brands, the freelancers a lot of the freelance designers that we work with. It's so difficult for them to accept payments because they're sending links to all these people, artists, musicians for lessons. They don't want to send links. So we wanted to solve that problem to begin with. But we have a business solution coming out. I won't say too much about it. You can sign up for the waitlist for the business solution on our website. But the business solution that we're coming out with is something that we're really excited about because it's going to be a game changer. The software is entirely end to end. So the business is going to have so many capabilities that they haven't had before, and we're really excited for that.
I'll take the link from you. I'll put it in the description so anyone wants to. And let's speak about the solution itself, the product. So, is it only like QR codes? Like, does the receiver have to be next to the sender, like physically, so we can like take a screenshot of the QR code or
They,
talking
they,
as links or
they don't even have to have the app for you to send money to someone, right? So just any person that you've got in your contacts,
yeah.
say I want to send money to you, you don't have the app, I look you up in Kem, all of your contacts are synced, you just press on you, send,
Yeah.
you'll receive an SMS saying Zane has paid you.
We're a social platform. So when you search up when you type in 25KD, right? You click send, and then you can search up anyone. It's like Instagram. So you have a username, right?
Yeah.
I reserved the username Seth. Our CTO reserved the username CTO. When we first launched the app, all our friends were like, "Oh, let me save." I think one of our friends got the first Aziz,
Yeah.
and everyone wanted to get their usernames. So now when you, it's like Instagram or any social media platform. When you search them up, that's all you have to do. You can search them up by their name, by their phone number. Really anything, QR code, you can scan their QR code, or they can share a link as well. So if maybe you haven't found them or your friend wants to send you the link, they can just quickly go to their app and just share their account.
Yeah, but I'm not understanding. Like, I get that the sender he has an account, but the receiver, where's the money is going to?
Great
to the
question.
receiver?
So when you send money to someone who doesn't have the app,
Yeah.
they'll receive an SMS. And the SMS that they receive will tell them you've received money from, for example, Seth into your Kem account, and it will have a link for you. You'll click the link, and it will have a pop-up basically saying to download the app to receive your cash. So if the person, let's say, doesn't want to download the app, the person who sent the money can take the money back.
Okay.
That's something that's never been offered in Kuwait before. So you can actually, if I sent money to someone incorrectly, maybe I sent it to a wrong number, you can actually take that money back before they've received it.
So they cannot claim it.
If they claim it,
Yeah.
then that money is now in the account, right?
Yeah.
But if they already have an account, you should be 100% sure about the person you're sending it to, because
Yeah.
there's a profile photo, it's connected to phone numbers. But if you send it to someone who doesn't have the app, if they claim it, they've claimed it now, and that person can receive it. But let's say you sent it to the wrong person, and you in your app you can see who you've sent it to that doesn't have the app, and you can take back the money
Okay.
if they haven't claimed it. So we implemented all these security features
Yeah.
that go above and beyond to protect the customer.
And like for the person who doesn't have the app, he'll have to download the app. Then how he's going to take the cash? Yeah. Yeah.
So he goes, signs up for the app. It's literally takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We don't ask for much at all. And then what happens is he links his bank account by just entering IBAN or account number. We offer both.
Yeah.
And then it's actually just one click of a button away. That was one of the solutions that we actually solved for. We're the first ones that are actually able to, withdraw money from a wallet. So like any of these other wallets that you may have seen from other companies like Talabat or any of the other ones, right?
Yeah.
The reason why they weren't able to be successful is because you couldn't withdraw the money, right? So it's like, okay, I don't want to just keep my money
Yeah.
in this, specific company's wallet. I want it in my bank account, right?
Yeah.
And so just allowing it to be free flowing
Yeah.
is what the customer wants.
And we worked with some of the, I want to give a shout out to one of the banks that really helped us with the solution. We worked with some of the team from NBK to roll this out, to have that solution. They helped us out with that. So, thank you for them for that. And really, so what they can do is when they receive the money, they can connect any bank account in Kuwait, from commercial bank to whatever. They just quickly enter their account details. And then for certain banks in Kuwait, we offer instant transfer. So they can receive the money in their bank account within seconds. So when I transfer money back to my WEI account from my wallet, if people are sending me money, I receive that money in a few seconds when I want to put it into my WEI account or whatever bank that I may have. But eventually we are going to be rolling out cards with one of the banks in Kuwait. So that's going to be an exciting thing where people can now keep money in Kuwait and spend as well. They can get a card. So we're rolling out a metal card, which is going to be quite exciting.
Oh.
Yeah.
So now I want to get in when you came up with the ideas. Like I know that you're brothers, but I know that you have a third partner.
Yeah.
His George.
George, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you meet George? Like I'm interested in the story. Like
Yeah. We
so,
met him in
but you're only 3 partners now. Or?
So everyone on the Kenton team
Yeah.
which we have a team stretching from people from Egypt to Kuwait, but they're the ones that are living in Kuwait, right? People from Kuwait, Kuwaitis, of course. We have Kuwaitis on the team.
Yeah.
People from Egypt, people from Eastern Europe, people from the US as well. And so everyone on the team owns a part of the company. We're very much believers in giving people options on the team so that everyone is very motivated, and we all have the same goal of solving, the fintech problem in Kuwait. And so
they have equity on
Everyone, yeah.
everyone has equity
That's
on the
like
team.
something that we decided we needed to do from the beginning because, look, at the end of the day, I think it's not done as much in this part of the world where, you give your team equity, but
yeah.
I think it's important. To be honest
Definitely
with you.
not in Kuwait.
Yeah.
I heard of this like in UAE and Abu Dhabi and places like this, but in Kuwait, I think you have to give like 1% exactly. Like you cannot go point something.
There's ways you can do it. If you want to give smaller amounts of equities, they have like software now that you can do that. There's one called Cake and such. But when we hired our first employee in Kuwait, Ghadir, she's probably listening right now. Everyone is very motivated when they know that they have a part of the company and that they're a part of the vision. So everyone working on the team, works day and night. We work around the clock trying to solve the continuous problems. We're always meeting and just working towards the solution. So everyone that we've met who's joined the team, whether we've met them, through friends, whether we've met them, at university, whether we've met them in high school, wherever we've met them, they all contribute to the problem that we're solving.
It's a interesting mentality, but aren't you afraid of like someone leaving with this equity and?
Yeah, so how we do something called like a vesting schedule, which when we bring people onto the team, they start getting equity in
Portions.
in portions.
Yeah.
So that if they ever want to leave, they can leave with what they've accumulated over time. But of course, also people are still hired on the team. They are still making salaries, and that's also why we raise funding rounds. Is people do need to cover their needs, right? And people do need to make a living. So everyone on the team is obviously employed. They make salary, but also the options are just an additional thing on top of there to show that we really care about our employees and that we love our employees. And that
it changes the culture, you know what I mean? Because in Kuwait, it's oftentimes people don't necessarily like the way that they look at work is like, oh, it's just for me to make money, for me to make my living, but it's not necessarily for me to, really believe in this or love to go to work.
Yeah.
But everyone on our team absolutely loves to go to work. We love going to work.
Yeah, we love going to work.
So what's the team number now?
We're right now a team of over 25 people. So that's full in-house team.
Yeah.
People in Kuwait, obviously our technical team as well. With some outstaffed people, maybe goes to 30, 35, but we run a lean operation. We are a fintech, so we don't want to have obviously too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But 25 is a good number for us at this current point in time.
Yeah. So let's get back to George. How did you meet George? And is there like another partner, fourth partner or something?
Yeah, we actually met George in high school.
Yeah.
Right. So we actually went to boarding school in the U.S.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts. And that's actually where we met George. Actually, Seth and George were running for what, student body president?
Yeah, we were running for student government, for student body president.
Yeah.
And it was a really crazy story actually, because when we met in high school and then we had not seen each other for years. I never thought I would probably see him again. I was like, okay, one of my friends from high school, I went, moved on to college, graduated, did everything.
Yeah.
And I went to a trip to Georgia, not Georgia in the U.S., to Tbilisi, Georgia, 2-hour flight away from Kuwait.
From here,
If you're from Kuwait and you haven't been to Georgia yet, please go take the trip. You're missing out. It's a great place for people from Kuwait. It's close by. Really great place to visit. Anyways, so we went for a trip to Georgia just for vacation.
He knew that you're coming.
Yeah, so I was there and George, he reached out to me on Instagram. Oh, you're in Georgia, and he's like, oh, let's meet up. And so we met up, and George was working in venture capital at the time. I assume people know what venture capital is listening to the podcast, but yeah, he was working in venture capital at the time in China and in Germany at Target Global. So he was working at some of the really top-notch VCs around the world. And so, my skill set, I'm very product focused and very sales focused. So, I had my skill set. Zane had his skill set from the operational aspect. And so we all had kind of our skill set. And George had a very strong skill set for the fundraising and for the financing aspect of building a business. And we saw his strengths, and he really liked the project. And he was working for a VC at the time that was making investments into the Middle East. They were making investments into the UAE, and they were looking into investments in Kuwait. And so we had him join the team, and ever since then, he's been supporting us on the project. So it's been great.
So after meeting George, how did you manage to gather the initial capital for the business? Like, I know that fintech requires a lot of initial capital. So how did you manage this?
Look, it's kind of come in, I think, over a long period of time. It's you've got to get it from wherever you can get it at the end of the day. You never know where it's going to come from, and he definitely was helpful in of course getting all of that money and raising it so that we could get the full round, and it took time.
There's a lot of startups in Kuwait that have asked me about the whole fundraising thing, and a lot of people, they get demotivated because maybe they've talked to a few people, maybe a few VCs. The well-known VCs in Kuwait, there's a few of them out there like Rasamil, Faith Capital. And unfortunately, those VCs aren't allocating capital to early stage startups, right? So that's just because the VC ecosystem in Kuwait hasn't fully matured yet to where they're making a lot of investments into early stage startups. It's only now starting in Saudi with the PIF, putting capital into VCs to deploy to early stage startups. So that's why a lot of startups were demotivated, but we really believed in the vision that we had. And so we went and spoke to everyone. We had probably in the first, attempt, we probably had over 100 rejections from VCs.
And how did you handle these rejections?
It was, it was
ups
very
and downs, you know what I mean?
It was very tough. And, if people are familiar with mixed martial arts or boxing, it's like doing rounds of fighting, right? Sometimes you'll lose a round and it's really painful, but you have to get up the next round and you have to keep going, because at the end of the day, it's whoever comes out on top at the end of the fight. And so we approached everyone from high net worth individuals, family offices, even just family friends to raise capital. Even we got investors from America as well. So we didn't limit ourselves to just people in Kuwait. We had someone that we knew who had previously owned a bank in the US, and we approached him, and even though this was pre-revenue, kind of pre-product market fit, you have to find those people who are really going to be willing to support you and believe in you in the project,
and see the glint in your eye, that just
and after you raise that first bit of capital, you start to get that momentum, and then it just becomes, okay, now you're using that capital that you've raised to improve the product, but you can never stop raising. If you stop asking, people for capital and stop the process, that's not a good thing. So I recommend to, all the founders out there that maybe have a tough time raising capital, keep talking to everyone. Don't close the door. Just don't stop the process. We had 100 rejections in the beginning until we raised our first million from many different investors in Kuwait. So, and then we're just continuously raising, and then it slowly becomes easier and easier. But there's a famous saying, an overnight success takes 5 years. So it's not going to happen in a month that you're going to go talk to a VC and they're going to just say, hey, here, take your 2 million, or take your 1 million, or take whatever. You have to really show that you have everything checked out. You have the fundamentals covered. You have the product. You have the blueprint for what you're going to do, and you have the team too, right? So, a little bit about our team. We wanted to make sure that we could really execute on this project. So, a lot of our engineers are from some of the best fintechs around the world, and they wanted to work for a project in Kuwait because I had them visit. So if anyone there is familiar with companies like Revolut, some of the digital banks in Eastern Europe, Amazon, all these companies, Zelle, actually, one of the guys on our advisory was on the board of directors at Zelle. So we had our team come to Kuwait, and we had them try to make payments, and we had them, interact with the local payments landscape. And these guys are hyper smart, and they looked at the whole process, and they're like, oh wait, I can see how we can improve this. Oh wait, I can see how we improve this.
Yeah.
And those people, I'm talking about the non-Kuwaitis on our team, who visited, and they became so passionate about solving the problem and motivated. So when they came here firsthand, because a lot of people want to hire this big outstaff team or outsourced team, but sometimes if you have less engineers, but you have them, visit, and you have a good relationship with them, where they,
Family,
where it's like
Yeah.
family, like we can call them any time of the day, and we can address the problems, and we can say, hey, we want this in the app, we want this, oh, we want to do this, and they're fully with the vision. So
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, like there's like 100 rejections, but is there like a point where you just wanted to give up, or
Many times. I think many times you were thinking.
during this beginning?
yeah, but when you even when you get a small investment, like the first investments we were getting into the company before we raised that round was like investments of $10,000 to, work on building the website, the first version of the website. And if you keep at the process, right? Like when you think about musicians, a musician doesn't learn how to play the piano to perfection by playing for a month or even a year. They're playing for many years, maybe
Yeah.
since they're children. So
Yeah.
in the startup game, maybe the lifespan is a little bit shorter on that. Some people achieve the goals in a much shorter period of time, but it's still not something that's going to happen in a couple months. So we were raising small amounts of money to begin with. This was before we had raised the round, and
I just want
Yeah, go ahead.
before getting this. So the original co-founders are just the three of you. You both and George.
yeah.
So the first, let's say, was it like seed or like Series A?
The first amount of capital that we were raising before we had raised the seed round,
Yeah.
right, was just kind of an angel round, bringing in money wherever we could get it,
Yeah.
to
And
develop the
they
product.
were like expecting success or something, or they're believing on you.
Yeah, I think that, look, those early investors and people who invest into really early companies,
Yeah.
I don't think they have to treat that money like they might not get it, because startups, it's a risky game, and everyone's heard the statistic that 90% of startups fail within the first year.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, we haven't failed. Alhamdulillah, we haven't went under in the first year. So yeah, you have to get money from people who really believe in you, and that comes with just talking to everyone. And then once they see that you've been active and you're really persisting, and you first have that presentation, you show them the presentation, maybe that you get a few no's, then you improve that presentation, you give the presentation to the next guy, and they're like, oh, this is a really nice presentation. Then they're like, oh, well, we want to see a website. Then you come back with a website. Then they say, come back with a product. Then you come back with a product. And once you keep repeating that process, you see how far you've come from just a piece of paper with a couple of slides saying how you want to build this business and your business plan, to now you have a product and a whole team. And you think, oh, okay, well, there was moments where I was really worried that we were gonna fail, because we for sure had moments where we thought we were gonna go under, and
Yeah.
we weren't paying ourselves anything at one point. We
How did you manage to survive without like?
well,
any-
we had to pay our team, so we
Yeah.
cut our salaries, and we didn't want to fire anyone on our team, because we really love what our employees are building, and we were struggling at this one point before we had to raise this round, and we thought, oh, is this going to be it? We were having some difficulty with the central bank. Then the central bank changed the regulation. We got more investors, and we were able to keep supporting our team in building this project, because the team is everything. And the most demotivating part is when you have to cut your team, because you never want to cut your team. Obviously, it's an important part, but the team is everything. And That's really how we look at it.
So you started on last May.
Yeah, that was
And
That's the first launch. But before
Yeah,
then,
operating on May. Let's
yeah,
say.
like that's the one that was actually like working. Anyone could just try it.
Yeah.
It worked and this kind of thing. But before then, we had to make something that was like just kind of bare bones what the design looked, so that like in a meeting with a
Yeah,
bank that
but-
we could just press the buttons
Yeah.
and then it
Can
would
we
work.
can we call it the official launch of the business or?
Yeah, we call it first product.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
first product, yeah.
and after like only 3 months, you get your 1 million
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah, so we had that first launch. That was the MVP, right? Minimum viable product.
Yeah.
And we had launched that. We had an event where we tested it out, and we had people come to that, and people were sending money to each other, and they were loving the experience. And a part of that event, it wasn't a big event. It was like 40 people, which is not a lot comparison to some big events in Kuwait, but we invited investors to that event. We invited key people in the space, and so that they could test the product with people at that event. So we had invited people to the event. They had tested the product out and see that it had work, and we had built this first working product, but it was still far from perfect. And at Kem, we're perfectionists, and we wanted to continue working on the product. So that was our first version, and it worked really well. We were able to raise capital so that we could bring on more engineers onto the project to continuously improve the product. And there's a lot of things that we're coming out with that we're very excited for Q1, Q2.
Yeah.
You're gonna be hearing a lot of stuff about what we're gonna be rolling out. So I'm very excited.
Tell me more about this list you invited for the event. So did you know them already, or like did you just try to reach out?
Because we've already spoken to everyone, but at this point, you know what I mean. So it's like wasn't difficult to come up with that list. You know,
So, some individual was from the 100 rejections, or
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
100%.
and they showed up.
Yeah. People, because they're gonna reject I don't think that people will give you the people in Kuwait, they're very nice. They're not gonna tell you no, it's never gonna happen. They're gonna say, look, I don't think it's the right investment right now. I need to see this. I need to see that.
Like giving reasons.
Yeah, they're very understanding, and you just have to keep that connection open. And if you come back to them a few more times and you've shown them this progress, they're going to say, okay, I really think this guy is serious about what he's doing, and they'll be willing to give you an investment. So we had invited people from that rejection list, from people that we hadn't met, tried to basically send out invitations to whoever. And, people, when people talk about it, when more people are hearing about it and testing out the product, it really shows that you really believe in what you're building. So yeah.
But about the million again. So take us through this story of how did you meet the investor? How did you agree with the investor about the terms and stuff like this?
Yeah. So you first have to you take on your first investment in that angel round at a valuation that you've determined what that investor is willing to agree with as well. So, the first valuation that we were raising at was like a 6.8 million valuation of the company. So the investor came in at that valuation, and they got a good amount of equity for what they were investing. This was prior to that $1 million we had raised. So at the beginning, you're gonna have to value yourselves less to take on more investment.
Yeah.
But as you develop a better product, you do more marketing, then you can justify a higher valuation to the investors. So then obviously we had raised, I won't say the amount, the valuation of the company that we had raised this million round, but obviously it was a higher valuation. And it wasn't just from one investor. Usually you have a lead investor who kind of does the due diligence on the company. And so that investor in Kuwait we had a relationship with, and she was a she, has relationships with banks in Kuwait and Bank al-Markazi. So
it's strategic. Yeah,
there was a strategic interest there, and she believed in the product because she has, I don't know, 5 kids. She has a lot of kids, right? And she's always having a difficult time, paying her kids. And we did a demo in front of her kids, showing her, hey, this is solving your problems, because we want to solve everyone's problems. So she saw how the product solves her problems and, understood that, okay, this is something that needs to be invested into, that will yield results in the future. And so we had her lead the round. She was happy with the valuation. And then we brought in other investors into that round that participated as well.
I was going to ask you about your idea about sharing equity with others, but from the beginning you told me that you gave equity for employees. So I'm sure that you don't have problem with sharing with investors, but a lot of entrepreneurs they're afraid or thinking a million times before accepting to agree with an investor or giving him equity. So what's your think about this?
I'm going to give you a simple rule of thumb for any kind of founder if they're just trying to understand the best way to go about this.
Yeah.
10, 15, 15. Okay, so that's how much percent you should be giving away in each round. 10% in the first round, 15% in the next, 15% in the next one after that. So that's so that you make sure that you're not getting diluted too early on. And there are sharks that will try and come after you and that will say, "Oh, I want 50%," and they'll just throw some crazy number out there that's like, "Okay, thank you. We'll move on from that."
So you rejected some people.
We did, yeah, of course, because it's like, come on,
you have to be able to reject.
you have to know your own value.
You have to know your own value.
But a lot of entrepreneurs they just want the money, so they'll.
Sometimes you have to be able to take the money if you really need it.
Yeah.
Because money solves problems, right? That's how you pay. That's how you pay your employees. That's how you do marketing. That's how you build everything up. And so, some of the valuations, were not on the most favorable terms for us in the part of our fundraising journey. But you sometimes need that cash at that current point in time. The money doesn't come all in at once. Sometimes it will come in different stages of when you're raising capital. And sometimes you need the money to continue the trajectory that you're on, because you don't want to slow your progress or even go backwards, right? And if you run out of money, then you're going to start falling behind. So you just have to keep that consistent growth and that trajectory.
Yeah.
But as you said, 10, 15, 15. Ideally you want to try and give away 10% in that first round, and there's investors who maybe want 15 in that first round. And if there's a good offer, you have to evaluate that offer as a founder and think, okay, is this money really going to help me? Do I need this money? And in most cases, you probably will need that money, and you'll have to accept the offer if you've had a difficult time fundraising, because once the cash is on the table, it's a completely different conversation. We can always talk about what would happen, what will happen, but if you have that cash and you have the opportunity to build something with that money, you should try and take advantage of that offer.
See, another aspect of it, entrepreneurs worried about losing control of the company. Not only losing control, but the investor might force their ideas, try to change some strategic goals that you guys put, or any entrepreneur put. So how did you handle this? If you have a vision for this company, and you now have new partners that might, let's say, force ideas, try to put new ideas or change some ways of the business that you guys see that it's most suitable for the business.
Yeah, so I think when you come to an agreement with the investor, you have to make sure that, if you're going to give them a board seat, what is the rights of that board seat, and also make it very clear to the investor how the decision making is going to be happening in the company. I think our investors that we have really trust our judgment and our ability to make decisions on behalf of the company. And that's how you also know you have a good investor, that they should be able to trust your judgment. They can obviously, I do believe in having a very good relationship with your investor and taking their feedback and taking what they have to, and listening to what they have to say, because a lot of these people have experience. They've maybe had, very successful careers, and you should listen to what they have to say. But Also, you have your vision as a founder, and you know, they have to respect that the decision making within a startup has to be done very quickly, and it has to move quickly.
Yeah.
So when you know, working at Kem, we make decisions very quickly to adjust to the market. So, and with product as well. So we're actively making decisions, and these decisions, we don't necessarily inform the investor on every single decision that we're making on the day to day, but the investor understands that that's what we need to do in order to stay at the velocity that we're going at
to reach the end goal you're trying to get
to reach the end goal.
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, you know, artificial intelligence, right? We made the decision amongst each other. Okay, we really believe in the value of AI, and we believe that AI and fintech really can go hand in hand. And so we made the decision to incorporate AI into our, you know, upcoming update of the application. We didn't need to inform the investor on the decision. We totally made that decision ourselves, and
Yeah.
we went forward with it. But yeah,
because you got to move fast, because if you're not moving fast, then you don't want bureaucracy to kind of take over your organization.
yeah.
Really, like, even what you see with a lot of these banks now, of what they're trying to do with their kind of like startup ecosystem, or their own what's it called, what's it called when they
Incubator.
incubators.
Incubator.
Exactly,
Yeah,
incubators.
I was going to ask about incubators.
Yeah, exactly. When they put people in incubators, they try and make it feel like this startup culture, that
Yeah.
it's like, you can make decisions very quickly. Maybe they have a couple bean bags on the floor,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got to move quickly yourself. That's the thing that changes.
We spoke to some incubators, banking incubators in the beginning, when we first started, in the very, very beginning, pre-product. And the issue was that we had is that some of them tried to push you in a direction that you don't want to go into.
Yeah.
And that was something that we didn't like about it. And that's why we decided that we're going to have to fly solo. And if that means that either, we're not, in that incubator, and we're going to crash and burn, so be it. We would rather, work on our own and achieve the things we want to achieve and solve the problems that we want to solve, then so be it. Because we were told in some of those, incubators, when we were offered, is that, make this product do this and make the product do that.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if they were straying away from the vision you had in the first place. And so I think incubators can sometimes be a good thing, depending on what you're building. But if you feel as a founder that they're redirecting you away from your own vision and what you want the company to be, then you have to be ready to step away. And if they're going to provide you money, or they're going to provide you some resources, you might have to give that up and go look for money elsewhere. And that may not be VCs. You may have to talk to family offices. You have to talk to everyone. And there are people out there. There are good people out there who will see you as a founder and see the hunger and see the determination that you have, and they'll want to support you in that endeavor.
Yeah. So a lot of our viewers will be shocked that you're 22 and you're 24 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your childhood, and how did you get into entrepreneurship and business?
Yeah, we can kind of switch in between,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
where I started was, I've always been into building things since I was very young. Anything really, just I liked kind of engineering and building things. Even when I was really young, building small little devices. And so when I had finished high school and started university, while I was in university, I had received a U.S. patent. I had developed some technology in the U.S. That I had received a U.S. patent for it. I had applied for it and everything, and I'd been granted the patent. And
But before that, what was your major?
Business, and then I had studied fintech in university. So I had a mentor in university. His name was Tim, and he legend in the fintech space
Yeah.
and banking technology. And
It's my first time knowing that there's a major about fintech.
yeah, it's like it was just a program that we were doing at
Yeah.
USC, and he was minoring in
Blockchain,
blockchain
yeah.
technology.
Yeah, well,
So
Yeah.
we actually made that decision while we were in university. We originally just went there as business majors because we were unsure about what we wanted to do. Before that, as I said, I like building stuff, but then once I got to university, I was thinking, what did I want to do as a career? And investment banking came to mind, private equity. And so, I was applying to internships in all those spaces. And there were some things that I was looking into, and I had been exposed to fintech. And when I when I got to interact with technology and startups, I realized that kind of my childhood passion for building things, really translated into fintech and startups and creating. Because when you're in a startup, it's always this problem solving mentality and continuous building. And so we have meetings with our engineers, daily. How do we improve the product? And we look at everything in a very minute detail. And sometimes, we'll scrap something and have to work on something completely new. And there's an excitement in that for me. And so when I had gotten my patent, that was kind of a testament to how much I like
Yeah.
building things. And so after we had left university, well, it was in university at the time when we had first thought about this idea. And I realized the startup is what I want to do.
So the patent was about what?
Sorry?
The patent was about what?
So the patent I had was a alternative ignition device, like a vaporizer thing. It was a piece of technology, hardware technology that I had sold to this company in the US that designs most of the vaporizers that you use today. And so it was a sensor
Yeah.
technology that when you kind of breathe in or whatever, it will ignite whatever
Yeah.
that material is. And so since I had gotten the patents are quite important, because if you have a patent, it now is something legally binding that shows that you're the owner of that thing that you've built. And
Yeah.
so I was able to sell that to a company, and that was kind of the first start in the journey
Yeah.
of wanting to create something.
And how old were you?
At that time, I was 21
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I had done that.
Yeah.
And
It's amazing. Having a patent in 21.
yeah, you can find the patent on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's-
So
it's-
you still own it, or
yeah, I still have the
Yeah.
patent.
and you're licensing the
Yeah, I'm
patent?
licensing the patent to a company. It's called
Yeah.
Grenco Holistic Science, the company that I'm licensing it to. And you can see the patent on my LinkedIn. If you scroll on my LinkedIn, you'll see
Yeah.
the link. It's on Google Patents, so you can find it. Just if anyone wants to fact check me on that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, so maybe Zane can talk a little bit about
Yeah.
where he
Yeah.
kind of fell into all this.
I was kind of in a similar boat. We were at USC together, and I was also doing the same kind of thing with fintech. I kind of had a little bit more of a focus on blockchain technology and kind of more on, I would say, like the legal side of all of these things. Just because at the end of the day, we needed to make it happen, and we needed to get all of these things done in a legal way. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I ended up doing. Is I went through every single piece of regulation that the central bank has ever issued about banks and all of this kind of stuff, and just sit with a highlighter in your hand, and you kind of figure out what the deal is, how you can make something work, what's the way that you can make the user experience easier, what's a way to get around it. And so that's kind of what I started doing in the beginning.
Yeah.
Is in addition to kind of helping out with all of the other stuff on the operations side.
You graduated from which
And
university?
USC as well, University of Southern
Yeah.
California.
And when did you graduate?
Yeah, we were actually college dropouts. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we actually decided to because of the work we had been working on with the patent and fintech, and we had raised money while we were in university.
Yeah.
So when we had raised our first investment, we were in university, and we had an obligation to our investors, and we haven't looked back since. It's been going well for us. So.
It's a big decision, huh?
It was a very big decision, and it was actually our advisor, like Timothy Lee, who was on our advisory board. He basically just, we kept coming to him and asking him all these questions, like, okay, well, wait, how would we make this work? And he just says, you just got to go do it, man.
Yeah.
What are you sitting around here for? Like, and so we're like, all right, we got to go do it.
And how did the family took that?
They were, a little bit shocked, but supportive after they saw the progress that we were working on. And, there's nothing stopping us from, going back and doing a graduate program with our experience. And we've been, the university actually, spoke to us through Tim about, even doing a little seminar and lecture at the university because of our experience. So we, that's life at the end of the day. And I don't look back on it too much. And the decision, I think, was the right decision.
You can always go back at the end of the day.
Course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
education never stops.
The regret would have killed us if we had not done this. And I think we're happy with the decision.
Your risk tolerance is
very, very high. Very, very high.
You remind me of Mark Zuckerberg. I think he did the same.
Yeah. And so we had the obligation to the investors, and if we had raised that money from investors and we had said, oh, okay, well, we're not going to work on the project, we're going to stay in California and enjoy the sun and surfing. It might have not been the best. It might have not been the best sign to our investors. And so once you take on a significant amount of capital, you have to be fully committed to the project and
the responsibility to that. You know what I mean? Someone said, "I trust you with this money. Go and do something with it and make me my money back."
I'm sure some audience might also be thinking about dropping off college. So how do you advise them? Do you encourage them to drop a college to do something they love or something they believe in, or do they tell us how did you take this decision? I know that you said you have some obligations to the investors, but let's know about your ideas when taking this decision.
It took a while to get to that point as well, by the way. It's not like a decision where you're just like, okay, I'm dropping out, that's it. It was really we had to spend a lot of time doing the research. Will this actually work? And then after I think a year, we were doing it in school. We'd come up with everything. We wrote out all the business plans. We did all of this kind of stuff that we needed to do. Really, really detail. And then at a certain point, you just have to actually do it.
I was in a class. It was an entrepreneurship class or something like that, and I remember listening to the professor, and the professor was saying, "How do you create a startup?" And find what you're passionate about. And then it was this whole instructions about how to create a startup, and I was just listening to it, and I thought, why am I listening to a class that's telling me how to create a startup if I want to create a startup, and how to figure out what idea you want to create. And that class was it was some business class or whatever, but I had just been listening to that, and I said, what, I have this all ready to go. And I had gotten up and I had walked out. I had taken the first flight back to Kuwait to work on the project. And we've been bouncing around between Kuwait, UAE, and Saudi because we're expanding to Saudi as well. So the ambitions we had for this project are not something that, dropping out we wanted to make sure that dropping out was the right decision, because if we're going to build this product, we don't want to make this something small scale, right? We want this to be a regional play. We want this to be a regional product. Because even in Saudi and the UAE, there's still a huge gap in fintech, and we really think that there's a lot of opportunity in these markets, and so we had to really step aside from university and work on the project full time. And to those who are considering that, just be ready to have you should have something first, right? that you're working on before you make that decision. Like you shouldn't just be there with no project that you're working on and just say, okay, right, I'm leaving.
Exactly.
We worked on the project in university, and we had built up all this stuff, and then we said, okay, right, we have all this thing ready to go. Now we can make that decision. And for those founders, as long as you have something ready, you've raised some capital, or you're generating a significant amount of revenue, those should be the indicators to you that, is this the right thing for me to do? So yeah.
Yeah. I think it was the right decision in your case. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So after so you finished from college period. So why didn't you like work for like 2 years before starting your business? You chose directly to
Oh,
do your business.
The reason why is I think when you're in college, you're exposed to the newest technology that's available,
Yeah.
right? That is the most cutting edge point that you'll be actually in your entire life.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of like college students that do this, where they come out and they start something like this, is because they're not wired in the same way that if you're working in the actual business world for several years,
Yeah.
right? Because someone that's working in the business world for several years, they already have a lot of preconceived notions about how things work, the technology that they already are accustomed to using, and for all of these other reasons,
Yeah.
right?
When you're in university, all that information is fresh.
Yeah.
And if you have your whole life to work.
Yeah.
With our experience that we have in fintech, people ask me, oh, well, aren't you worried that, you're not going to get hired one day if things tank and whatever. And with our experience and the connections that we've built, I'm very confident that whatever career I follow after our work with Kem, that college degrees won't even matter. There's Google now doesn't require a college degree for jobs there. Facebook, Meta, right? Companies now really don't care for that as much anymore, and they care more about what are your qualifications, in the sense, what skills do you have, what hard skills do you have, what soft skills do you have, and there's many places hiring. And when you're young and you have that information from college that's fresh in your mind, and you're used to the latest tech, you also have the biggest risk appetite when you're younger. Once you're older, you don't want to risk things, right? You may have a wife and kids, and you can't risk it with a startup. So when you're young is the best time to do a startup, and that's why all the startup founders that create significant, right? Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook at what, 21 or something like that, and while he was in Harvard. And when you look at a lot of the successful startup founders, they all started this when they were 18 to 20 to 28, and they're late teens, late 20s, right?
I don't think there's like a wrong or right answer on this. Yeah, it's
there's no wrong or right answer.
Yeah.
You have it's success. It's there's no right path, right? When you think about what they'd say, the founder of KFC, the Colonel Sanders, he became like a billionaire at the age of 70. Life is life, and we're just enjoying the ride, and we love what we're doing, and we've had the fortune of being able to travel to many different places in Europe and the US, and work with people in the technology space, and because of the experience that we've had, people do value our opinion and value what we have to say about tech and fintech. So we're happy with the decisions that we're making, and no matter what path you take as a founder, or if you want to work, if you want to work in investment banking, if those jobs are essential, people need to be doing those things. I'm not saying don't go and do consulting, don't go and do investment banking. If you're good at something, go do it.
Yeah.
Right. If you're great at investment banking and you love that, go do it and pursue that career. In the case of us, because of my childhood and what I've been working on, startups for me are just something that I like to do. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and that's just what my appetite is for, and I'll continue to be working on projects till how God knows how long.
Yeah.
So
let's move to Kem again. So
Sure.
when starting the business, tell us more about some difficulties that you faced, whether it's regulations, rules, or competition. Some,
I would say definitely one of the biggest problems that we had was infrastructure in Kuwait, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we started off and we were like under the assumption that all of the stuff had been built, that there were already all of these networks that we could just, you know, take advantage of. These payment rails is what they call them.
yeah,
And there was none of that, right? We
No.
couldn't use any of that. So what we ended up having to do was build it ourselves. And that's actually, you know, we're the first ones that were able to do push payments, so pushing money into your bank account, right? And so that wasn't done before, right? Like, you know, and look, the whole regulation side of things, I think at the end of the day, we're in the financial services industry.
yeah,
It's something that's going to take time. It just does. It's there's nothing you can do about it. You know, we meet all of those requirements. We have met all of those requirements since day one, because, you know, our entire team has been working in fintech ever since, you know, the beginning of their careers. So they already know all of these things. It's already implemented as best practice for how we shape things. And
Yeah, if you're considering going into fintech, just be ready that regulation is a very important part about this. And you know, so people understand is that when you're dealing with people's money, you have to build trust. And trust is one of the most important things when building a company. When you use an iPhone, you trust that Apple is securing my information, that my phone is safe. I'm not, you know, nothing, none of my data is compromised, right? And with financial services, money is, you know, is do or die for some people, right? If, you know, when you look at what happened with FTX and these, you know, these crypto exchanges, you know, especially FTX that went under, a lot of people lost their money. And, you know, people don't think about it that much, but that could be someone's hard-earned money that they've spent years working on. And so the regulations are there to protect people. And at the end of the day, you'll have to comply with those regulations. And we do comply with those regulations. And there are challenges with getting the license approval in Kuwait, and I you know, I won't deny that. And many people in the local fintech market and the regional fintech market, the GCC is heavily regulated when it comes to fintech, but that's because they want to protect people's money and they don't want, you know, people who've worked very hard to just lose everything on some company that maybe you know, is committing some kind of fraud. And so that's where the trust element of this is very important. And that's why, you know, at Kem, we work very closely with the Central Bank of Kuwait in order to meet all those regulatory requirements that they have. Yeah.
So, if I ask you to rank Kuwait between GCC countries with
you want to rank it in what, in terms of
regulations and rules and fintech.
Oh,
So,
look, I would say definitely the UAE is the most advanced.
Of
That's the
course.
one that I'm going to say first, just because for them it's a pay to play. As long as you've got the money,
yeah,
you'll get.
let's say like Kuwait is improving right now, but
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
Kuwait actually is
Yeah.
better actually than I would say a lot of the
Yeah.
other GCC countries.
Okay.
Actually, there is definitely, I think.
so
Kuwait-
we put it in like
But here's what I'm going to say, actually. I want to say this about Kuwait. The one thing about Kuwait, maybe, sure, there's certain regulatory things that make it easier in the UAE and Saudi, but recently they've been changing it in Kuwait.
yeah,
But yeah, Kuwait, you know, has been opening up the central bank. They had a new governor just appointed. The central bank team, they've, you know, employed a lot of really young people who are very keen on bringing fintech to Kuwait. But now the one thing I'll say about Kuwait is when you rank it is the talent, right? Kuwaitis are, I would say, one of the most talented, you know, talent pools in the GCC, right? You know, you have Saudi, which is a big population, and you have the UAE, but somehow Kuwait has managed to do really tremendous things with such a small population, right? You look at Talabat, right? The huge success of Talabat came out of Kuwait. You think about Boutiquat, right? You think about, you know, a lot of different companies that have achieved tremendous success in Kuwait, and that's because the Kuwaiti population is incredibly talented, and the experiences that we've had here and the community that we have here, people are supportive of each other.
When it's harder, you actually get people that are more entrepreneurial. Actually, I think.
Yeah.
Because the environment is like a desert. You know, from the beginning, you have to get it done. And so many people in Kuwait have that attitude, actually, and that's like, you know, something that we've seen that definitely a lot of people have. That I would say maybe some of the other GCC countries don't have as much.
And we have the best restaurants too.
Exactly.
So you mentioned earlier security. So let's know about the security stuff that you have, or like how secure is the app or the system of Kem?
So like, look, in terms of fraud, just by the numbers, right? Apps like ours, payment apps, reduce fraud by over 9 times. So 9 times less amount of fraud than traditional bank transfer.
Yeah.
Right?
Links. He's talking about links.
What I believe, central banks in general, not only Kuwait, they are afraid of from like money laundering. That's what and fintech. So
yeah, look, that's where you're kind of using a lot of AI for this kind of stuff, right? You know, you do something called flagging transactions. So you're not necessarily saying every transaction is something that you need to look at, but you see, okay, what's the patterns that people are doing here? There's like specific types of fraud that you have to learn about. I'll give you an example. One's called priming the pump. Okay. So what this is how someone would do this is that they would send small amounts of money in an account and then do one big amount of money to withdraw that into cash, so that you wouldn't notice, because this person's already made a lot of transactions. It seems like they're, you know, a normal person, and then they'll come in, try and take a huge amount of money.
How to stop that?
Yeah, so we have, we use AI to actually prevent those things. So we actually, monitor transactions. Obviously, your transactions are, fully encrypted, and we don't compromise any of that data. But when it comes to money laundering, we monitor what transactions are happening on the platform, and we can detect in many different ways if money laundering is going on, and we can stop it in its tracks before it even happens. Because we have implemented a lot of things that really top tier fintechs have leveraged.
Yeah. There's also limits for all of this kind of stuff. So the amount of money that someone would be able to take out at one moment isn't enough for them to.
I saw that you have like 300 KD maximum for 1 week, right?
Yeah, so we have 2 limits in the application based on how you verify your account.
Yeah.
So we verify with civil ID. When people want to increase their limits, they add their civil ID. So we allow people who haven't, maybe they've just used their mobile number to verify their account, they're able to send small amounts of money.
Yeah.
Once they verify with their civil ID, we've now confirmed you're a real person, you're registered in the state of Kuwait, you now have higher limits, and we verified you now. But also just in the application, we have Face ID, PCI DSS. So we implement all the security measures that a bank would have, and actually with payment applications such as ourselves, it even reduces the amount of fraud.
Before moving from regulations, so I heard from you that you're planning to move out to Kuwait, or not move out, so operating in other countries in GCC other than Kuwait. So I know that there might be some difference in regulations. So how to
they're actually very similar, actually.
Okay.
So this is the thing. Like, yes, there's
small differences.
There's small differences, I would say, with each country. Maybe the limits are different. Maybe they have slightly different identity requirements. Whatever. It depends on the country that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But actually, for the most part, it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
Even the name of the license is actually the exact same in each different country. Right, it's
I think they did it on purpose. Yeah.
I think they did do it on purpose, of course, and they look to each other, right? The regulators.
It's actually a good thing. It's a good thing.
And they look to each other to try and learn what the others are doing. They kind of all follow a similar suit, I would say, in the GCC.
Yeah,
which is actually an advantage for us, because when you compare it to a Western company that would come out from the outside and that would try and launch in the Middle East, they have no clue what's going on in the GCC. We're on the ground floor. We know what's going on.
So
and because some VCs, and the reason also for this expansion as well is that regional VCs in the Gulf that we've met with, want us to expand to Saudi. They like the product that we're offering in Kuwait, and you have access to capital in different markets that you operate in. So, when we've spoken to some Saudi VCs, they want us to operate in Saudi because they like what we're working on. And so we're very keen on, supporting the Saudi community, and just like, some Saudi businesses maybe come to Kuwait, we're happy to share, our talented team and what we've been working on with the rest of the people in the Gulf, and show people what, Kuwaiti companies are capable of.
Yeah. So I was planning to speak about expanding outside Kuwait later, but since we are speaking about it now, so you're only planning to go to Saudi or other countries?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, what this will look like is every single country in the GCC,
Yeah.
you'll be able to have money from that account. So whether it's Oman, Qatar, UAE,
But
Saudi.
it will be limited, like if like I'm in Kuwait and you're in Kuwait, or like let's say you're in Saudi, can we send money to each other?
That's what we're gonna do. Exactly.
Yeah.
It should
Just like
in a way the GCC should be like Europe, right? The GCC should function in the same way that Europe does. You can move money easily in between these countries
But
because
you'll use like dollar or something, because there's some rates, some differences.
You'll use the local currency if it's dinars. You can change the currency just like how they've been doing it in Europe with Revolut. You can change the currency and you can hold money in those accounts. And if you want to send money to a different country, we do allow that with a very small fee, just like other remittance
So
companies.
you're now competing with exchange.
Well,
we have to work with exchanges.
We actually have to work with the exchanges. So we do have relationships with some of the exchanges because also in fintech, it's hard to build everything yourselves.
Of course.
Because if we now want to do exchanges and remittance, we have to get regulated as an exchange, and then that's going to be a whole process. So we're right now getting regulated as a money wallet.
Yeah.
But getting regulated as an exchange is a whole different animal, and so we have good relationships with the exchange houses.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's get back to Kuwait. So how did like customers or clients find the app?
They love it.
Yeah.
They absolutely love it. And so many people have been saying, this is finally what we've been waiting for in Kuwait. We really wanted this. At the end of the day, I think Kuwaitis are actually very, very digital native. They really are very tech heavy. Everyone really here has an iPhone. At most, I think it's 98%, 99% of people have a smartphone in Kuwait.
Of course.
Right? Because everyone is they're used to it at this point, and because they're already so well trained on how to use smartphones, something like this is just an easy sell for them. They're just, I love it, I'm on it, great, I'll send money to my friends even if they don't have the app. It's
a lot of Kuwaitis have also traveled too. We have a huge Kuwaiti population that's going to university in the UK. We have a lot of Kuwaitis in Arizona. These are the Kuwaiti population has traveled a lot, and even Kuwaitis that are in Kuwait, obviously they are very tech savvy,
very cosmopolitan.
Very cosmopolitan, yeah. So they are very easy to accept solutions like this, and they're familiar with the solutions that they've used, whether it's in America and Europe. And we had really great feedback, and the people that used the first version of our application, that had the pleasure of using the first version of our application, loved it, and they've been saying that they've been waiting for something like this for ages, and they started using the app ways that we didn't even think our customers would start using the app. They're like, oh, I could use the app for this, right? Or I could use it. One guy was saying, oh, I could use it for my boat when he rents his boat from Khairan to go to the islands.
Yeah.
And so
business-wise.
Sorry?
Business-wise.
Yeah, business-wise. And so this is what the business solution that we're coming out with.
Yeah.
This is the thing, by the way, as well, that I think a lot of people maybe don't understand about Kuwait, but the cash economy in Kuwait is huge.
Yeah.
It's 40% is how much is cash transactions that go on.
Till now? 40%?
40%.
Wow.
40%.
Yeah. That's the shadow economy that happens, right? Because even domestic workers, when they're paid, usually they'll prefer cash, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just an easier alternative. They don't necessarily want to have to get one of these big machines to accept a card, right? Or sending links. They have limits for how many they can do in a day.
I'm gonna add a statistic to this as well that I heard yesterday. The digital payments market in Kuwait.
Yeah.
How much digital payments have been transacted in Kuwait? Okay, you have to keep in mind 40% of the payments right now are in cash. The digital payments as of today in Kuwait is 30 billion KD.
In value.
KD. So that's over 100 billion in digital payments
for Kuwait.
Just for Kuwait.
In like a year or a day or.
I think it's how much was it? It's a year, right?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, a year.
Yeah.
So 100 billion in just digital payments in Kuwait. So that's 60%, right? So add 40% on top of that.
Yeah.
How much is going to be processed in digital payments? That's a huge amount of money that's being processed. And for fintechs getting into the space, that's a big market to take advantage of.
Yeah.
When you look at the Kuwait compared to the other, Gulf countries, we're actually, processing a large amount of money for the size of the country that we have. And so if with us, Kem, we want to reduce the amount of cash that people are using because we're an alternative to cash. We're digital cash. So that 40%, once you account for that 40% is up for grabs, right? So you already have 60% being processed, and that market is still, addressable. And companies now are trying to get into the payment space, but you have a whole 40% that hasn't been moved to digital yet. And so it's incredible when you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's elders and like people who don't use smartphones, like baqala or like.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that it's difficult for them to get access to this
Yeah.
kind of stuff because they have to go to the bank, they have to sign up, they
Yeah.
have to then get the machine and pay a fee on the machine. For us, there's none of that. It's all removed.
I don't know about the statistics, but I think Kuwait is maybe leading the portion of digital payments.
Yeah, no,
in
it is.
GCC.
And by the way, like, I know you said you'd worked for TAP, and
Yeah.
you've worked in that kind of space.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of those guys, they're all over the GCC.
Yeah.
But where they're really making their money is Kuwait.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
It's
where
a-
they make
Yeah,
it.
TAP is from Kuwait, right?
Yeah.
And they're all over the
It's,
GCC. It's all
Ali-
Kuwait. It's all
Ali
Kuwait.
Hassan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when like getting feedback from your customers, like your clients, in the first version of the app, did you like make any changes according to the feedback?
100%. We listen to every detail
Do you
that our
still
customers.
want feedback?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always love taking feedback because that's how we give the best experience to our customers. Well, we don't want to be stubborn, and when someone tells us something, oh no, we don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
We have to listen to everything people say, so that we can offer the best services to our customers. So, when we had that first event, one person told us, oh, can I have my, balance represented this way? And we made that change in the application that next week. Because if we, obviously some things people may say may not be something we want to implement. But we listen to everything people say. And so when someone tells us something, we talk about it. We're like, okay, this person said this to us. And then we say, okay, well, we agree with what they said. Let's make that change.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to people as well when you speak directly to the customer. This is one of the things I want to just say that he does that's absolutely fantastic. That, sometimes a customer will say, oh, this feature isn't, great, or, oh, you should improve on this. And he'll just call them up directly.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
He'll just call them up and they're like,
Yeah.
what? Maybe they'll even say something mean in the message, like, fix it now or something like that. And he'll call them directly. And then
Yeah.
they'll be like, wow, like, thank you so much for, addressing my problem. They feel they're heard,
Yeah, that was in the very beginning when we were working on the support team as well. So we had support things that people would say to us. Oh, we want this, we want that, and we would call people directly. Now, obviously, we have a support team that's in-house dealing with everything, but we still work with the support team very closely.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll still call those customers because we want to make sure that their voices are being heard and that they have the best service at the end of the day.
Yeah. So if you listen to us, mention your feedback in the comments, and
Please do.
yeah, they'll see it. So speaking about competition, so I know that you're working with banks, but I think they might be the biggest competitor in the field facing you. So
Yeah.
they're like allies and competitor at the same time for your business. So I'm using payment links. I still use payment links. I don't think it's that bad. So, like, tell me, because you mentioned that it's slow or something like this.
Which bank do you have? Just curious.
I have so many accounts.
That's your problem right there.
Yeah, but mainly I use Bobbian.
Right, yeah, Bobbian is quite easy, especially for younger people. A lot of people have it.
I'm with Bobbian since like 2015.
Yeah, they're a great bank, at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And most Kuwaitis have multiple bank accounts.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it's people were fighting to open up new bank accounts. Really, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's more that there is this middle layer that's missing from just making it so that any different bank you've got, that the problem is solved with them. So like, you can just use Apple Pay when you're just double tap
Yeah.
for any bank. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And that's like
And the banks, we have a good relationship with some of the banks, and we just spoke at a fintech conference yesterday at the Hyatt in 360, and the whole conference was about banks working with fintechs to reach their customers better. Because the banks, they're huge institutions, and they have a lot of projects that they're working on, and sometimes working with a fintech such as ourselves and
Yeah.
letting us support them is a great way to reach their customers. So we don't see ourselves as direct competition with the banks.
Yeah.
We actually see ourselves as being a tool that can help them reach their customers better. So we have really good relationships with a lot of the banks, and many of the banks are very keen in offering us services so that we can better support our customers.
Yeah. So let's change my question. I know that you said you don't see them as competitors, but how are you going to convince the customer to move from sending links like me to using Kem?
Yeah, so how we do it is, through our distribution model. We, if you follow us on Instagram, we have giveaways, we do all these kinds of things, referrals. And so we just want the customer to get a touch of the app. And so once they get on the app, they realize how sticky it is. And when they make their first transaction, it's a domino effect. So they make their first transaction, they're like, wow, that was really easy. And then they make their second transaction. And then once they make their third transaction, they're not sending links, anymore. So just getting people on the app and being able to see what it offers is one thing. And then we also, have referral programs. We have many different incentives for getting customers to use our app. But really, all those incentives are great. But the main thing for us is that we want to build an awesome product that people love and they want to use. And that's how we hope to reach our customers.
Yeah. So can you tell us about some numbers regarding any numbers that can represent the company in terms of number of clients? I know that you said you don't want to mention the valuation of the company, but any numbers that you can mention, sales.
We were doing so. I won't give exact numbers that I can tell you what we can disclose, but we were doing 200,000 in our first version of the app. We were doing 200,000 in payment volume per month. That's one number that I can share with you guys, just because we're currently raising another round. So you kind of disclose our data room to certain institutional investors. But at that time, in our first version of the app, we were doing 200,000 in payment volume per month.
Yeah.
And that was when we first pushed out that app, that was very surprising to even us, because we didn't think that we were going to be processing that much in payment volume. We were like, oh, who's sending all this money? People were sending, topping up their account. They were sending lots of money to their friends, and people really liked the product. And so we were quite surprised by that. And, after we had raised that funding round, we wanted to make sure that we could add all these different features to make the app even better than it was in the first version, so that eventually, we hope to hit the benchmark of, processing over $1 billion in payment volume in Kuwait. That's the goal. We want to start processing the majority of payments in Kuwait, and that's the end goal for us.
Yeah.
And of course, Saudi too.
So this question is for you both. So what do you hope that you will achieve in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years about Kem?
I think that we really hope at the end of the day to try and increase the accessibility of financial services.
Yeah.
In Kuwait, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily have bank accounts, or the services that they're offered are not what they deserve. When you think about Indians, Filipinos, Pakistanis, like Egyptians, that are a huge portion of our population, right? The banks don't necessarily want to cater to them as much, right? Because they think, oh, well, our ideal customer is Kuwaiti, receives their salary from, their student bonus or things like that. And they don't want to serve people as much. And, one of the beautiful things I think about technology is that you don't have to discriminate against people, right? Everyone you can serve. And so I think at a certain point, you'll see people that won't ever even have to, have a bank at all. They'll just have their money in a Kem account. They'll be able to transfer money back home to their families in different countries directly into those wallets. Most other countries have digital wallet infrastructure of some kind. So they're very used to that kind of thing. And I think they're just waiting for it to be, kind of finalized here.
Yeah, but what do you hope for the company for the next 5-10 years, like in terms of goals?
What I see is that most people, and just take this statistic in mind, 50% of the GCC is under the age of 25.
Yeah.
Right. So the direction that they're going is a lot of people are on TikTok, right? A lot of people are on, the new platforms that the young generation is using. And we want to be there and we want to be a part of that. And so that's a population that we resonate with. And, what we hope for in the next 5 years is that most people in Kuwait are going to be using Kem to pay their friends, to pay their family, to pay their staff.
There's a QR code everywhere.
And we want to be everyone's, we want to be everyone's friends, and we want to be everyone's a part of everyone's lives. And that's the goal for Kem.
Yeah. So to end this, I would like to end with like advices from you both also to specifically young people trying to be an entrepreneurs. So if you can give us an advice.
Mine is, I think, just start doing it. Figure out the other things along the way. It's as long as you're at least trying to do it and figuring out what your weaknesses are, what you can improve, you have something that you can actually work on. And I think just get started. At the end of the day, there's so much to build. There's so many opportunities, especially in the GCC and in the Middle East. There's so many businesses that haven't been created yet, but have existed for years in other countries, right? And new business models that you can, bring to the region. And, I think that there is that entrepreneurial spirit, and I think we've got to keep it up as a generation, and really, make the older generations proud that we're able to, kind of bring this country into what it is.
Yeah.
We need to also take it forward, and there's a responsibility to take it forward further.
My piece of advice would be team. And when I say this, I mean that you need to assemble a team when you're starting a company that you can put full trust into, and that you believe in their capabilities and their talents, and that you don't need to micromanage them, and you don't need to, because a company is not built by one person, right? A company is built by a team of people that have the same common vision. So a lot of our team that we have at Kem, I have full trust in them that they're going to get this done, whatever their role or whatever their task may be. They know what they need to do, and I trust their abilities even more than myself, right? We have, designers and people in our marketing department. I fully trust their abilities that they can do the job better than me.
Do you believe in delegation?
In delegation?
Like giving tasks that you can do to another person?
Yeah, like, in general, like give them some tasks that you think are, appropriate, but also if you really trust them as a team member and they're a really solid, person in your team, they'll assign tasks to themselves.
Okay.
Because what we look for as well is that, I'll just give the example with the marketing department. I'm not a marketing expert. I have experience with sales, but when I talk to someone who's, an incredible team member, they tell me what we need and where we're maybe lacking. And so when we met with, the first group of, our marketing team that we hired and the designers, I said, look, I trust your guys' abilities. What do we need to do? And they're so independent and they can get things done, and I trust their abilities. And once you see them starting to work with you, and you just see that process kind of unroll, you realize that you've built a really great team. And I advise for, all the founders out there, look for smart people that you think are smarter than you in that particular role. So if it's an engineer, you have to think that guy is a really great and bright guy who can, solve all the problems that you may have.
I promise this is my last question. So
go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned the team. So you both mentioned that you're like the business major. So who did the tech part of this business?
Yeah, so we have a CTO. His name is Mikhail, and Mikhail Arzamanov, and he was the CTO at one of the biggest Eastern European digital banks.
Yeah.
called Tochka Bank.
He was from the beginning with you.
Yeah, so he joined the team when George joined the team as well.
Yeah.
And so Mikhail is, an incredibly bright guy, and he's worked on many significant fintech projects, and he knew how to lead the technical team. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm not involved in that process, or we're not involved in that process. Everyone on the executive team is involved in the product design and improving the product. But in terms of the engineering and the details in this, we have full faith in Mikhail's abilities to really deliver on executing on this project.
Seth and Zane Sadeq, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.